Hello and welcome to The Hindu. This is Stanley Johnny, your foreign affairs editor. Israel and the United States war against Iran has entered the third week. Israel has also launched a ground offensive in Lebanon where it's fighting Hezbollah, an Iranian ally. In Gaza, where the Israeli army occupies more than half of the territory, Israeli bombardment continues, while the West Bank witnesses settler violence as Israel's far-right politicians are pushing for annexing the Palestinian territory. What does Israel's unchecked militarism mean for the Palestinians and the wider region? Are these forever wars making Israel safer? How the Israeli society is responding to these crises? Is there a path towards peace and stability? To discuss these questions and more, I am today joined by Israeli journalist, author, and commentator Gideon Levy. Thanks for joining us, Mr. Levy. We follow your articles and your reporting very keenly here from India. And it's great to have you to discuss West Asia and the ongoing conflicts in the region. Let's start with Iran. Now, you see this war is now unfolding on multiple fronts. Israel and the United States launched this war on February 28th. And we are now on March 17th, on the 18th day of the war. How do you assess the unfolding of this conflict? Do you think the Israelis and the Americans are winning the war, or they entirely miscalculated the Iranian response?
As it seems now, there will be no clear victory in this war. There will be a heavy price, which is being paid already now. But I don't see a real crucial victory here, and it couldn't have been seen also from the beginning, because both parties, the United States and Israel, launched this war without having any idea where are they aiming to. I mean, the cause of changing regime in Iran might be a legitimate cause and a needed one for the security and the freedom of the region, but I'm not sure it can be achieved at all by force. And even if, let's say, the miracle happens and the regime in Iran will fall, and then what? Does anyone have any clue who will replace this regime in Iran? We are facing the same problem with Hamas in Gaza. Israel does not want Hamas. Hamas is really a bad organization, but nobody has a clue who can replace Hamas. So if you go to such wars without an end game, a clear end game, don't start them. And we are now in the stage in which it gets more and more complicated, more and more bloodshed, more destruction, more and more countries joining. I mean, there are already almost half of the region is in war. Who will benefit out of it except of the arm dealers, the arm industry?
So you have been writing about these conflicts for quite some time from Israel. And Israel has always used this decapitation as a strategy to achieve its objectives. And we could see that in early 2000s, Hamas leaders were killed, and recently Hezbollah Secretary General was killed. And now Iran Supreme Leader was killed on February 28th. And today, before I started this conversation with you, we just saw the news that Ali Larijani was also probably assassinated by the Israelis. So, I mean, how do you look at decapitation as a strategy? Is it helping Israel become a more safer, secured country? Is it helping Israel meet its objectives in the region?
Not at all with a capital letter. First of all, I have my doubts about the legitimacy of such actions. You don't kill head of states, I mean, unless you are facing a Hitler, yeah, which is not the case, in any case, not the case. But let's put aside the moral and the legal question, which are very heavy and I highly appreciate them, but let's put them aside. What did Israel achieve out of all the assassinations throughout the years? You mentioned just part of them.
Yep.
The replacement is almost always more radical than the pre-successor. It's always also natural because he gets to power with more anger, more hatred, more desire to take revenge. What do you think, that the son of Khamenei will be more moderate than the father? On the contrary.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's legitimate. I don't think it's legal. But above all, it doesn't serve any purpose, because finally you have to think who is going to replace all those leaders. Hamas, I mean, generation after generation of leaders were assassinated by Israel, and Hamas is life and kicking, and for sure not more moderate today than 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So what did you achieve?
And how do you look at this war from Israel? Because I'm asking this because I mean we understand from the media that there is a little bit of censoring on on the coverage of the conflict, but I could still see, particularly on Hebrew Twitter, about the impact of the Iranian attacks, the missile attacks and drone attacks on Israel in Tel Aviv and several other parts of Israel. First of all, how bad is it? Is it as bad as it is projected on social media? Is Israel taking major missile hits from Iran? And how the Israeli society is responding to this?
So first of all, it always looks worse from the outside. I know it from conflicts that I used to cover elsewhere. I was always more scared before I got to the place rather than after I got there, because always people, human beings, create themselves a new routine, which from the outside seems like an impossible routine, but finally people find their way.
Yep.
So I don't want to underestimate, but we have a very, very good protecting system, alert system. We get an alert the moment the missile is launched far away in Iran, thousands of kilometers away. We are already going to the shelters, if there are shelters, and in many cases we have shelters, not all over Israel, by all means not. But where I live in Tel Aviv, no problem. But it's not normal life. I mean, I just came out now 10 minutes ago from the shelter. You are going a few times a day, day and night. The economy is paralyzed. No education system. Very few flights abroad. I mean, this cannot be a routine for long. So people absorb it. I must tell you that the figures are astonishing. 93% of the Jewish Israelis support this war, which is almost a North Korean figure. 93%. I mean, where do you get 93% without any question in a democracy?
Yeah.
But people support it. I think they'll have their second thoughts when it will get more and more complicated. Iran was portrayed in Israeli media for years as the great demon. So people support any fight against the great demon, but things might change.
What is your take about Iran? Of course, Iran and Israel are at odds in the region. Both countries look at each other as hostile powers. But I mean, as an Israeli journalist who covers these conflicts, how do you look at Iran?
So there's the rhetoric, which was really extreme and ugly, both calling for death to Israel and death to the United States, death to the small Satan and death to the big Satan. That by itself was ugly, but that's not an existential threat. This is just those are only talking. What was really disturbing was the creation of all kinds of proxies of Iran surrounding Israel. In the north, Hezbollah; in the south, Hamas; the Houthis in Yemen. I mean, it's a whole ring, fire ring, which, so I don't say that Iran is something that Israel could live and ignore it. No, Iran is a very strong country. But I'm not sure that military power is the answer or the solution. Yeah. I still believe that by diplomacy we could have reached much more, mainly on the nuclear capabilities. And I'm not sure that this chance, I mean, we gave enough chance for diplomacy. I must remind you that the Americans canceled the agreements, not the Iranian. The Iranian kept the agreement.
The 2015 nuclear deal that you're talking about. Yeah. But Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government seems to be adamant on pursuing the military solution, because when I'm a student of West Asia, this region, I've been reading and writing about this region. I studied about West Asia. I've also visited Israel, Iran, and the Palestinian territories a couple of times. So when I look at it, especially for the last 30 months, Israel has been at war, non-forever wars for the last 30 months. In Gaza initially, and now it's fighting Iran. It fought Iran in June 2025, and now on Lebanon. Now Israel launched a ground offensive in Lebanon. I mean, how can Israel be at this perpetual conflict? How is it shaping the Israeli society? And you mentioned, you briefly talked about the cost on the economy. The non-access. I mean, students are not able to go to schools, etc., etc. So this is overall shaping the Israeli society?
So first of all, we cannot ignore also the price of the other side, which is 100 times heavier. By the time we are talking now, Stanley, there are around 6 to 7 million people around the Middle East which were uprooted from their homes,
Yep.
part of them forever. In Gaza, 2 million. In Iran, over 3 million. In Lebanon now, almost 1 million. This is unacceptable, with all the respect to the justification of this war. So let's not forget the price of the other side, yeah? And all by Israel. All those uprooted people lost their lives, lost their property, partly forever and partly temporarily, because of Israel. So this is by itself very disturbing. Now, as for Israel, we teach our generation after generation, Israel should live on its sword and only on its sword. That military option is not the last option, but the first option. This is very destructive also when you come to, as you rightly mentioned, to see how it shapes the mindset of people in this country. And the mindset of Israel and the people of Israel is very aggressive, very militaristic. This doesn't promise a lot in terms of health of a society. And you see how it penetrates also into the society itself. So if it's 1 month, 2 months, but as you rightly said, it's a reality in the last 2.5 years. And we don't see the end, by the way. It's not like it's 2.5 years and it's over. It might take another 2.5 years. So all those calculations are not being taken into account when a decision is being made about launching a war. When you launch a war, you only think, will I win? Will I do I have enough troops, enough technology, enough weapons? No. Think also about the social price, the economical price, the mental price, the educational price, the moral price. And all this is not being taken into account.
And in many ways, October 7 was a watershed moment in West Asia's history, particularly for Israel. Israel witnessed a brutal attack on October 7. And in return, Israel carried out a catastrophic attack in Gaza. And now, when we discuss this, I think more than 50% of Gaza is now militarily occupied by the Israeli forces, while the Palestinians were pushed to the other parts, particularly towards the south. And on the West Bank, recently we saw some changes in the rules, and the far-right Israeli politicians kept pushing for the annexation of the West Bank. And I don't see any mainstream Israeli politician today committing themselves to the two-state solution. So how do you look at the future of the Palestinian question? Because I'm sure that you had mentioned yourself that for peace and stability in the region, you had repeatedly written about it. You need to find a solution to the Palestinian question.
So unfortunately, the Palestinians are always the one who pay finally the biggest price. And they are totally off the table now. And the solution for their problem, which is now 100 years old, is getting far and far. Not that we are not closer, we're getting farther and farther. Because also the world forgets them again and again. And except of condemnation and declarations, they get nothing. And they achieve nothing. They didn't achieve anything in the last decade. Nothing. Except for bloodshed and terrible killings and genocide and transfer. We are speaking all about Gaza. I travel at least once a week to the West Bank. What people are going through there, I mean, it's not Gaza, but that's not life. They live in cages now. They cannot leave their villages in many cases. Pogroms on a daily basis. So to answer your question, the solution for the Palestinian problem, for the Palestinian people, is far now than ever. The two-state solution, in my view, lost its chance. It's a train that left the station with 700,000 Jewish settlers, part of them very violent and very powerful politically. Nobody is going to evacuate the West Bank. Israel never had the intention to do so. And I'm afraid that they will end like the American natives, put in some reserves and totally forgotten without having any rights forever. There is a danger. There is also the danger that Israel will use those wars to transfer at least part of them. The plans are still there, both for Gaza and the West Bank. I don't think Israel gave it up. It's now not possible, but it might come back. And each war like this makes their position worse and worse, even though there will never be stability and peace in the Middle East without the solution of their problem. Never. You can have peace with the entire Arab world as long as this will continue to bleed a people without citizenship, maybe the only people in the world without citizenship, a people without any rights. This will continue to bleed, and as long as this bleeds, nothing will be solved.
So, how long Israel can continue this, in your view? On the one side, there's unchecked militarism in the region, and inside, the systemic segregation against the Palestinians.
Apparently, for a long time, you see that Israel is continuing like this. The question is not how long Israel can continue with it. The question is, what kind of Israel will we witness?
Yeah.
Because Israel is also changing throughout those conflicts, and for the bad, not for the good. It's not the Israel we knew 10 and 20 years ago. It will get more and more violent, more and more nationalistic, more and more racist, and more militaristic. We see it happening by the time we are talking now. And the question is also, for how long will the world let it go on like this?
Yeah.
The world, which knew so very well how to handle the first apartheid state, namely South Africa, is totally passive about the second apartheid state and Israel, and part of it is continues to hug Israel. Not
So, you are saying Israel is an apartheid state?
How else can you describe it? How else can you describe it when there are two peoples, one people with all the rights and the other people has no rights whatsoever? How else can you define it? I don't know any other definition.
Yeah. Let me take you back to Lebanon before we wrap it up. So, as of now, Israel is carrying out massive attacks inside Lebanon, airstrikes, and also launched a ground offensive. And Hezbollah is also firing hundreds of rockets into Israel. Hezbollah has fired apparently more than 1,000 rockets over the last 2 weeks into Israel. So, how the conflict is being panned out before us? What does Israel want to achieve? Do you think Israel can militarily defeat Hezbollah, take over southern Lebanon, and establish some buffer zone and establish peace in the region? Or Hezbollah will only become more hardened? How do you look at it?
I can't even understand how this question can rise when we tried it already twice and three times.
Yeah.
We had everything you described, we had already. We had this buffer zone, we conquered half Lebanon, and it didn't lead to anything. Israel didn't become a more secure place. Now there is a big opportunity because we are facing a government, first time in the history, a government in Lebanon, which seems to be very ready really to open a new page with Israel and to make anything possible to disarm Hezbollah. But we don't give them even a chance. By destroying Lebanon, we will not achieve anything, neither embassy from the Lebanese government or cooperation from the Lebanese government, nor a victory over Hezbollah, because I don't need to prove it. We tried it. We destroyed Lebanon, we conquered Lebanon, and Hezbollah is today not less strong than 10 years ago, 5 years ago, maybe even politically stronger. So there is a chance now for diplomacy. I hope Israel will give it a chance. There are not good signs that Israel is really going to give it a chance. That's the only solution for the Lebanese question.
Why there is so much resistance to diplomacy in Israel's ruling elite? They always prefer, the ruling class always prefers conflict over diplomacy. How do you explain this?
First of all, it's always easier for the ruling classes or for the government to go for military adventures because it has more glory and it unites the people around you, and it is, nationalistic and militaristic. And when the atmosphere is so nationalistic and militaristic like in Israel, there's no room for diplomacy. I mean, you cannot pass anything now in this atmosphere, in this spirit, when Israel is so nationalistic and also looking for all kinds of imaginative victories which will never be achieved. So any politician who will go now for diplomacy will commit suicide, political suicide, and they know it. So it's a vicious circle. The politicians are creating this atmosphere, this mindset, and then they cannot change it. And therefore, those damages are for the long run, the damages of those wars. It will be very hard to bring us back to the 90s when Israel really was ready for trying diplomacy. I'm speaking about the times of the Oslo Accords. Right now, we are far than ever from any diplomatic or peaceful agreement.
So I think on February 28, when the United States and Israel launched the war, I think they thought the war would be over quickly, swiftly, and there could be the regime could collapse. Or I may be wrong, but it's my assessment that or a much more pliable section might emerge in Iran after the decapitation strike. That didn't happen. The regime did not just survive; they have a new supreme leader now, and the IRGC is now fighting back across the region. You have some kind of regional conflict, which you had warned in one of your pieces, that any direct attack could trigger a regional response. And the Strait of Hormuz remains closed, which could affect the global economy. And particularly we Indians are suffering because of the energy shock. The prices are going up. So the world cannot continue to witness this war going on forever. But at the same time, at this point of time, I don't think Donald Trump has a real plan to bring the war to an end. So what do you think? I mean, is there a real possibility to shut the war down and establish a new order in the region, or we are going to witness this conflict for a long period of time, conflict and instability?
So first of all, as I said before, because there is no intention even to touch the Palestinian problem, so peace and stability will not prevail in the coming future. Because for this, you need really to concentrate. First of all, this is the source for everything. I don't say that Iran is attacking Israel because of the Palestinian question. No. But the Palestinian question gives Iran a justification to attack Israel. And the same for Hezbollah, and same for Hamas, and same for those partners. Right now, we can only look for some kind of stability, namely to end, first of all, the war with Iran by an agreement between the United States and Iran. I still believe it is possible. I don't see an alternative because Iran is quite strong in standing for the long run.
Yeah.
They can absorb, and they proved it in history with the war against Iraq.
1988.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Israel cannot take it now for years. No way.
Yeah.
So I hope there will be some kind of agreement. I think also that Donald Trump realizes already what a fiasco he created here, and he will try to minimize the damages now. And minimizing the damages now is to get down from the high tree that he climbed on and to try to get to a new agreement. Once Donald Trump gets out of Iran, Israel cannot continue in Iran by itself. No way. In Lebanon, yes, not in Iran. So at least we'll neutralize this war with Iran and we'll get again to some kind of stability. But again, it will be only for a few years, and then we are back in the same place. Or maybe even a few months like this time. This time it took 8 months between war and war. That's not a livable reality.
Thank you, sir. So unless you address the Palestine question, you're not going to have long-term stability and peace in the region. And at least for medium-term stability, you need to make a deal between the Americans and the Iranians to shut down the war. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Stanley.
Yeah.
All the best.
Thank you.